Chapter 1. The Illusion of Stability. At 5:12 a.m., Ryan Cooper's alarm vibrated against the wooden nightstand before the sun even considered rising over Seattle. He silenced it on the first buzz. 42 years old, and his body woke before the clock most mornings anyway. He lay there for a moment, staring at the faint outline of the ceiling fan. The house was quiet, safe, steady, predictable. The kind of silence a man works his whole life to earn. Beside him, Amanda slept on her side of the bed, back turned, cocooned in the duvet. Even in sleep, there was distance. A valley of untouched mattress between them. Ryan studied the curve of her shoulder in the dim light. There had been a time she used to roll into him at night. Now she rolled away. He told himself it was normal. Marriage settles. Passion cools. Life gets busy. He slipped out of bed without waking her and padded down the hallway. The house they'd bought 7 years ago was everything he'd promised her. Wide kitchen, fenced backyard, good school district. The mortgage was high, but manageable. Stability cost money. He started the coffee maker and opened his laptop at the kitchen island. Overnight reports from the telecom infrastructure project flooded his inbox. Fiber line upgrades. Tower maintenance schedules. Budget approvals. Responsible. Disciplined. Necessary. That was who he was. A provider. Footsteps pattered down the hallway. "Daddy." Lily appeared in mismatched pajamas, hair a golden explosion around her face. 5 years old and already louder than any alarm clock. Ryan smiled instantly. "Morning, sunshine." She ran into his legs, hugging them like she hadn't seen him in weeks instead of hours. "You promised you'd check my drawing," she said, holding up a wrinkled paper. "It's a unicorn, but it's also a spy." "Ah," Ryan nodded seriously. "A covert unicorn. Very rare species." She giggled. Jack toddled in more slowly, thumb half in his mouth, dragging his stuffed dinosaur by the tail. 3 years old. Soft-hearted. Shy. Ryan crouched down and opened his arms. Jack leaned in quietly. The world narrowed to that small weight against his chest. This is why you work late." He made pancakes while Lily narrated her entire dream in breathless detail. Jack sat at the table, swinging his legs. The television murmured morning news in the background. Amanda came downstairs 20 minutes later, already dressed in a fitted navy blouse and pencil skirt. Her hair was straightened perfectly, makeup subtle but precise. "Morning," she said, kissing Lily's head. She gave Jack a quick peck on the cheek. Ryan leaned in slightly, expecting the same. She turned toward the coffee machine instead. He pretended not to notice. "Big day," he asked. "Budget review," she replied, eyes already scanning her phone. "And the board's asking for revised forecasts. It's chaos." She typed something quickly, thumbs moving fast. Ryan watched her for half a second longer than he meant to. "Wanting to handle daycare drop-off?" he offered. "I've got it," she said absently. "I might be late tonight, though." Again, another late night? She sighed, not looking up. "Ryan, it's Q4. It's always crazy this time of year." "Right. Of course." He forced a smile. He knew how demanding corporate finance could be. She'd worked hard for her position as a financial controller at a fast-growing tech firm. He'd been proud when she got promoted last year. Proud and quietly relieved. 2 strong incomes meant security. But lately, late had become routine. Dinner without her. Bed without her. Conversations reduced to logistics. "Did you pay the water bill?" "Lily has ballet Thursday." "Jack needs new shoes." Marriage had become a shared calendar. Ryan grabbed his briefcase and kissed the kids goodbye. At the door, he paused. "Amanda," he said gently. She looked up from her phone. "Yeah. You good?" A flicker of something crossed her face. Annoyance? Fatigue? "I'm fine," she said. "Just busy." He nodded. Busy. That word had become their buffer. Their excuse. The commute downtown was gray and wet, typical Seattle drizzle, clinging to the windshield. Ryan drove in silence, hands steady on the wheel. He told himself he was lucky. Healthy kids. Beautiful wife. 6-figure job. No drama. No chaos. He thought about his father, who'd worked construction until his back gave out. "A man's job," his father used to say, "is to make sure his family never feels the weight he carries." Ryan carried it gladly. The day at the office blurred into meetings and network diagrams. He coordinated tower installations, negotiated contracts, solved problems no one else wanted. At 6:37 p.m., his phone buzzed. Amanda, running late. Don't wait up. He stared at the message. No heart emoji. No apology. Just efficient. He typed back. No problem. Drive safe. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. No reply. At home, he reheated leftovers for himself and the kids. Lily insisted on showing him a dance routine. Jack refused vegetables unless Ryan made airplane noises. By 8:45 p.m., both were asleep. Ryan cleaned the kitchen alone. The clock ticked louder than usual. Amanda walked in at 9:23 p.m., heels in hand. Sorry, she said quickly. We had to finalize year-end projections. You eat. At the office. He nodded. She moved past him, dropping her purse on the counter, but not before slipping her phone out first. Always the phone. He noticed it without wanting to. You coming to the holiday party Friday, right? She asked, opening the fridge. Of course, he said. Wouldn't miss it. It's important, she added. The executives will be there. He smiled faintly. I'll behave. She didn't laugh like she used to. Later in bed, she faced away again. He considered reaching for her. Didn't. The days rolled forward like that. Work, kids, distance. He rationalized everything. She stressed. You're overthinking. Marriage isn't a movie. On Friday afternoon, Ryan left work early to get ready for the party. He picked up his suit from the dry cleaner and stopped at home to shower. The house was quiet again. He stood in the bedroom, adjusting his tie in the mirror. 42. Slight lines around the eyes. Still strong. Still steady. A good husband. A good father. He heard Amanda downstairs on a call. Voice brisk and professional. He tightened the knot. In the reflection, he caught sight of their bed behind him. Perfectly made. Untouched space in the middle. He smoothed his jacket, rolled his shoulders back. I'm doing this for them, he murmured to his reflection. Then he grabbed his keys and headed downstairs, unaware his life was about to fracture. Chapter 2. The Drunken Confession. The ballroom glittered like money. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light across polished marble floors, and the glass walls of the downtown Seattle hotel revealed a skyline soaked in winter mist. Music hummed through hidden speakers, something jazzy and inoffensive. Laughter rose and burst from clusters of well-dressed professionals balancing champagne, flutes, and corporate ambition. Ryan adjusted the cuff of his suit jacket and scanned the room. Amanda looked like she belonged here. She stood near a group of executives, posture perfect, smile measured, one hand lightly resting against a wine glass. Her navy dress fit flawlessly, elegant without trying too hard. She laughed at something a silver-haired man said, tilting her head just slightly. Ryan felt a quiet swell of pride. That's my wife. Ryan. He turned as Amanda approached, heels clicking confidently across the floor. You made it, she said, brushing a quick kiss against his cheek. It was polite, controlled. Wouldn't miss it, he replied. She glanced around. I need to circulate. The CFO's here. Try to mingle, okay? He smiled. I'll survive. She squeezed his arm briefly, then disappeared back into the crowd. Ryan watched her go. He wasn't uncomfortable at events like this, but he wasn't in his element either. He built infrastructure, solved technical problems, negotiated contracts over spreadsheets, not champagne. He headed toward the bar. The bartender slid him a whiskey without much prompting. Holiday party? The bartender asked. Something like that. Ryan leaned against the counter, observing the room. Laughter, clinking glasses, forced cheer. He spotted Amanda again across the room, animated now, leaning in to hear someone over the music. She looked alive, more alive than she had at home in months. Mind if I steal that spot? Ryan turned. The man standing beside him was mid-30s, sharp jawline, expensive haircut, the kind of confidence that bordered on rehearsed arrogance. Go ahead, Ryan said, shifting slightly. Craig Williams, the man said, extending a hand. Strategic partnerships. Ryan Cooper. Craig raised an eyebrow. You with the company? Spouse. Craig grinned knowingly. Brave man. Ryan smirked faintly. Depends who you ask. They clinked glasses casually. Craig ordered another drink before finishing the first. His movements were loose, relaxed, the kind of looseness that suggested he'd been here a while. "So," Craig said, leaning back against the bar, "what do you think of the circus?" Ryan shrugged. "Looks expensive." Craig laughed loudly. "That's the point. Impress investors, stroke egos, pretend we're all a family." He took a long sip, then nudged Ryan slightly. "You married to someone in finance?" Ryan's gaze flickered briefly toward Amanda across the room. "Yeah," he said evenly. "Financial controller." Craig let out a low whistle. "No kidding." "What?" "Nothing." Craig grinned into his glass. "Just, I've got a thing for finance women." Ryan chuckled politely. "That's so." "Oh yeah," Craig said, voice lowering conspiratorially. "They're organized, calculated, but when they decide to break rules." He smirked. "Different story." Ryan's smile thinned almost imperceptibly. Craig continued, clearly enjoying himself. "Actually, I've been seeing one for a while now." Ryan took a slow sip of whiskey. "Yeah." "Married," Craig added casually. Ryan didn't react. Craig leaned closer, breath tinged with alcohol. "Almost a year." Ryan's grip on the glass tightened just slightly. "That's risky," Ryan said. Craig shrugged. "Only if you get caught." He laughed at his own joke. Ryan's pulse ticked once in his throat. "What about her husband?" Ryan asked. Craig rolled his eyes dramatically. "Guy works too much. Engineer or something. Always out of the picture. Total cliché." Ryan felt something cold slide down his spine. Craig continued, oblivious. "She says he's a decent guy. Just boring. Predictable. You know the type." Ryan's jaw flexed. "And he has no idea?" Ryan asked. Craig grinned widely. "The idiot has no idea." The word hung in the air. "Idiot." Ryan forced a calm breath through his nose. "You meet at work?" he asked carefully. "Sometimes," Craig replied, "but mostly hotels. Easier that way. Clean. Discreet." Ryan stared into his drink. "Hotels. For almost a year, huh?" Ryan said quietly. Craig nodded proudly. "Best part? She's a financial controller. Knows how to move money around without raising eyebrows." Ryan's vision narrowed slightly. "She here tonight?" he asked. Craig laughed. "Of course she's here." Ryan's heartbeat pounded now, but his face remained neutral. Craig lifted his chin, scanning the room lazily. "See that brunette over there? Navy dress. Talking to Mark from compliance." Ryan followed the direction. Time slowed. Amanda, laughing, one hand resting lightly on a colleague's arm. Ryan felt the room tilt just slightly. His ears rang. Craig nudged him with his elbow. "That's her." Silence stretched between them. Craig mistook it for admiration. "Told you. Worth the risk." Ryan turned his head slowly back toward Craig. The man was still smirking. Ryan's voice, when it came, was steady, controlled. "That's my wife." Craig blinked. The smirk lingered half a second too long, like his brain needed time to process the words. "What?" Ryan held his gaze. "That's my wife." The smile drained from Craig's face. Color disappeared next. His mouth opened slightly, then closed again. "Wait," Craig stammered. "You're Ryan Cooper," he said evenly. Craig's breathing shifted. "Faster." "You're joking," Craig said weakly. Ryan didn't blink. The music seemed louder now. Or maybe everything else had gone silent. Craig glanced toward Amanda, then back at Ryan, panic crawling into his features. I didn't know. I believe you," Ryan said calmly, which was somehow worse. Craig swallowed hard. "Look, man, Ryan set his empty glass on the bar. "You should probably get some water," he said quietly. Craig stared at him, stunned. "You're not going to, not here." Ryan adjusted his jacket. Across the room, Amanda caught his eye briefly and smiled, unaware. He smiled back. The performance continued. Ryan walked past her without stopping. "Leaving already?" she asked lightly. "Early morning," he said. "Don't stay too late." She nodded, distracted. "I won't." He headed toward the exit. Behind him, the party carried on, music, laughter, clinking glasses. Outside, the cold air hit his face like a slap. He inhaled deeply. No yelling, no fists, no public humiliation, just clarity. He walked to his car, movements precise. Inside, He gripped the steering wheel and stared through the windshield for a long moment. The city lights blurred through mist. He started the engine. The drive home was silent. No music, no radio, just the hum of tires against wet pavement. The silence in the car ride home was heavier than rage. Chapter 3, The Nanny Breaks. Ryan pulled into the driveway just after 10. The house looked the same. Porch light on, curtains drawn, quiet suburban calm. Nothing about it suggested betrayal. He sat in the car for a full minute before stepping out. The cold Seattle air bit at his face, but he barely felt it. His movements were measured, controlled. Every instinct screamed to storm inside, to demand answers, to shatter something fragile and expensive. Instead, he unlocked the door quietly. The living room lamp was on. Amanda wasn't home yet. Of course she wasn't. The house smelled faintly of lavender cleaner and something sweet. Vanilla candles Isabella liked to light after putting the kids to bed. Ryan loosened his tie and set his keys down carefully on the console table. He heard soft footsteps from the hallway. Isabella appeared, wringing her hands together. She was 26, small, dark hair pulled back into a low ponytail. She'd been with their family for 2 years. Gentle with the kids. Reliable. Quiet. "Mr. Cooper," she said softly. "You're home early." He nodded. Party wasn't my thing. She studied his face. Something in her expression shifted. "Mrs. Cooper still at the event?" she asked. "Yeah." Silence hovered. Ryan noticed the way she kept clasping and unclasping her fingers. "You okay, Isabella?" he asked. Her eyes darted toward the hallway, then back to him. "Can we talk?" she asked hesitantly. His pulse slowed instead of quickened. "Yes," he said evenly. "Let's sit." They moved into the kitchen. Ryan pulled out a chair at the island and sat down. Isabella remained standing for a moment before lowering herself into the seat across from him. She looked like someone about to confess to breaking something irreplaceable. "What is it?" Ryan asked calmly. Isabella swallowed. "I don't know how to say this." "Start anywhere." Her voice trembled. "I didn't want to lie to you anymore." The word lie settled heavy in the air. Ryan felt a strange detachment, like he was watching someone else's life unfold. "About what?" he asked. She stared at the countertop. "Mr. Cooper, the man from tonight." Ryan didn't react outwardly. "What about him?" he asked. She closed her eyes briefly, gathering courage. "He's been here." The words landed softly, but they detonated inside him. "Here," Ryan repeated. "Yes." "How many times?" Her hands tightened together. Since around February. Ryan calculated automatically. 10 months. "He comes when you're at work," she continued. "Usually late mornings. Sometimes early afternoon." Ryan's breathing stayed steady. "And Amanda?" he asked. She lets him in. Silence. "Where?" Ryan asked. Isabella's voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Your bedroom." Ryan didn't blink. "They use your bedroom." A sharp, quiet pressure built behind his eyes. The bed, the sheets, the space that had already felt divided. He pictured them walking past family photos in the hallway, past Lily's drawings taped to the fridge, into his room. "How long have you known?" he asked. "Almost since the beginning." "And you said nothing." Her eyes filled with tears. "She told me if I ever told you, she would call immigration. She said she would report my visa status and say I overstayed. She said I would be deported." Ryan felt something colder than rage settle in his chest. "She threatened you?" he asked quietly. Isabella nodded. "I sent money home. My parents depend on me." I was scared. He believed her. Amanda had always been strategic, precise, controlled. "How often?" Ryan asked. "At first, maybe once a month," Isabella said. "Then more. Sometimes twice a week." Ryan looked down at his hands. They were steady. "Did they?" He didn't finish. "Yes," Isabella whispered. He nodded once. The humiliation came before the anger. Not the sex. The disrespect. His home. His bed. His children sleeping down the hall. "I'm sorry," Isabella said through tears. "I didn't know what to do." Ryan looked at her. "You're telling me now." She nodded. "There's more," she said quietly. He wasn't surprised. "Go on." "Packages," she said. "Designer packages. All the time." "What kind?" "Purses. Shoes. Jewelry boxes. Big orange boxes sometimes." Hermes. Ryan kept his face neutral. She told me not to put them in the closet, Isabella continued. She takes them somewhere else. Where? I don't know exactly, but she has a small key on her keychain. Silver. She said it was for storage. Ryan's mind shifted gears automatically. Storage. She leaves during the day sometimes, Isabella added. Says she has meetings, but she's not dressed for meetings. How so? She changes clothes before leaving. Something more casual. Ryan absorbed every detail. Anything else? He asked. Isabella hesitated. I saw bank envelopes once. Different bank logo. Not the one you usually use. A separate account. Cash. Ryan asked. Yes. She asked me once to deposit something, but then changed her mind. Ryan leaned back in his chair slowly. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't loneliness. This was structure, planning, movement of money, movement of time, movement of lies. Mr. Cooper, Isabella said shakily, I never wanted to hurt you. He looked at her for a long moment. You didn't, he said quietly. She exhaled in relief and began crying softly. Ryan stood. Thank you for telling me. You're not angry? She asked. He considered the question. I am, he said. Just not at you. He walked down the hallway, past the framed family photos, past the closed master bedroom door. He didn't go inside. Instead, he opened Lily's door gently. She was sprawled across her bed, one arm hanging off the side. Stuffed unicorn clutched her chest. He brushed her hair away from her face. Daddy, she murmured in her sleep. He swallowed. He moved to Jack's room next. Jack slept curled tightly around his dinosaur, breathing softly. Ryan sat on the edge of the small bed. 10 months. In this house. While he fixed towers. Closed contracts. Worked late for them. He had believed distance was stress. Believed marriage cooled naturally. Believed in loyalty because he practiced it. He sat there in the dim glow of a nightlight shaped like a moon. Systematic betrayal. That's what this was. Not weakness. Not a mistake. A system. He didn't cry. Didn't shout. Didn't break anything. He just sat in the dark, staring at his sleeping children. Chapter 4. Following the money. Ryan didn't sleep. He lay beside Amanda while she returned home sometime after midnight, sliding into bed with a sigh like she'd had a long, ordinary evening. She smelled faintly of expensive perfume and hotel soap. He kept his breathing even. She didn't try to touch him. At 5:00 a.m., when her alarm vibrated, he was already awake. She rolled out of bed, checking her phone before her feet hit the floor. Morning, she said softly. Morning. You left early last night. Had a headache. She paused briefly, studying him. You okay? I'm fine. The lie slid easily off his tongue now. She nodded, seemingly satisfied, and headed for the shower. Ryan stared at the ceiling. Systematic. If this had been happening for 10 months, there would be patterns. Trails. Numbers that didn't add up. Money always leaves fingerprints. After she left for work, Ryan waited until Isabella took the kids to the park. Then he walked into the master bedroom. The room looked pristine. The bed made tight. Pillows aligned. Curtains half drawn. He walked to Amanda's writing desk near the window. The top drawer was locked. He crouched, examining the small brass keyhole. He'd installed that desk himself when they moved in. She'd said she needed a private space for work documents. He stood, went to the garage, and returned with a small flathead screwdriver and tension wrench from his old toolkit. He worked slowly, carefully. 30 seconds later, the lock clicked open. He exhaled once and slid the drawer out. Inside were neat folders, organized and labeled envelopes. Personal, tax, banking. Ryan pulled out the banking folder first. The logo on the statement wasn't from their joint bank. He sat down in the desk chair. New account. Opened 9 months ago. Balance. $38,742. His jaw tightened. He flipped through the pages. Transfers. Regular deposits from their joint checking. Small amounts at first. Then larger ones. $3,500. $5,000. $8,200. His pulse thudded in his ears. He pulled out another envelope. 2 credit cards. Not listed on their shared financial overview. High limits. High balances. Designer retailers. Luxury department stores. Boutique shops in downtown Seattle. He felt something hollow open in his chest. He opened the next folder. A printed transaction history from the account where his late mother's inheritance had been placed. He knew that account intimately. He'd left most of it untouched, intended for emergencies and the children's future. He scanned the page. $15,000. $10,000. $20,000. Withdrawn in staggered transfers. Total. $45,000. The air left his lungs slowly. $45,000. His mother had worked 2 jobs for 20 years to leave him that money. He stared at the page until the numbers blurred. Underneath the statements lay a small silver key attached to a white tag. Safekeep Storage, Unit 314. Ryan sat back in a chair. Storage. Isabella had been right. He pulled out his phone and began photographing everything. Each statement, each card, each withdrawal. Methodical, controlled. He returned everything exactly as he'd found it and locked the drawer again. An hour later, he stood in front of a large beige storage facility 20 minutes from their house. Safekeep Storage. He parked in a visitor spot and walked inside. A bored young man sat at the front desk. "Can I help you?" the man asked. Ryan placed the silver key on the counter. Unit 314. The man glanced at the computer. "You Amanda Cooper?" Ryan met his eyes steadily. "I'm her husband." The man hesitated, then shrugged. "Same difference." He buzzed Ryan through the back hallway. Concrete floors, metal doors, the faint smell of dust and cardboard. Ryan stopped in front of 314. He inserted the key. The lock turned easily. He lifted the rolling door. It rattled upward, and there it was. Rows of pristine boxes. Bright orange, black and white, cream-colored ribbon tied perfectly. Hermes, Chanel, Gucci, Tiffany & Company. His vision sharpened strangely, like everything was hyper-detailed. He stepped inside. Hermes bags lined the back wall, still stuffed with protective paper. Gucci heels in their original boxes. Chanel jewelry cases stacked neatly. Tiffany bracelets in velvet pouches. A mirrored jewelry organizer held diamond earrings he'd never seen before. He walked slowly, touching nothing at first. Price tags dangled from some items. $4,200. $3,850. $2,100. He did the math quickly in his head. Then he saw a notebook resting on a small folding table. Black leather cover. He opened it. Inside was a handwritten ledger. Dates. Store names. Amounts. Notes like, "Worth it. Limited edition. Wear to gala." Total columns added carefully. Ryan flipped to the last page. Grand total. $87,450. His hands didn't shake. He took photos of everything. Every shelf. Every item. Every page of the ledger. This wasn't emotional spending. This was accounting. She tracked it. Calculated it. He stepped back outside the unit and pulled the door down slowly. Locked it. Walked back to his car. He sat in the driver's seat for a long moment. Joint savings account. Children's college fund. He opened his banking app. Numbers lower than he remembered. Transfers labeled as household adjustments. He leaned back against the headrest. She hadn't just betrayed him physically. She dismantled their financial foundation. Stolen from their children. Stolen from his mother's legacy. Systematic. He started the engine. That afternoon, he scheduled 2 appointments. The first was with David Chun, a divorce attorney downtown with a reputation for precision and discretion. The second was with a private investigator named Tom Alvarez. When Ryan walked into David's office the next day, he placed a thick folder of printed photos and statements on the desk. David adjusted his glasses and began reviewing them silently. After several minutes, he looked up. "You've done your homework," David said. "I'm just getting started," Ryan replied calmly. Later, at a quiet coffee shop, Tom listened carefully as Ryan explained. "You want surveillance?" Tom asked. "I want documentation," Ryan said. "Every meeting, every movement, every dollar." Tom nodded slowly. "You're not reacting emotionally." Ryan met his gaze evenly. "No," he said. "I'm reacting strategically." By the time Ryan walked back to his car, the rain had started again. He didn't feel lost. He felt focused. Strategy begins. Chapter 5. The DNA bomb. The numbers were bad. The betrayal was worse. But the timeline wouldn't leave him alone. Ryan sat at the kitchen island long after everyone had gone to bed, laptop open, staring at a blank spreadsheet he hadn't typed anything into. The house was quiet except for the low hum of the refrigerator. 10 months. That's what Isabella had said. Craig had bragged about almost a year. Jack had just turned 3. Ryan did the math again. 3 years ago, he'd been at the hospital, holding Amanda's hand while she screamed through contractions. He'd cut the umbilical cord. He cried when Jack wrapped tiny fingers around his thumb. 10 months didn't overlap with pregnancy. But what if it had started earlier? What if 10 months was just what Isabella knew about? What if it had been going on longer? He leaned back, rubbing his face with both hands. The thought felt poisonous. He tried to push it away. Jack had his eyes, didn't he? Same soft brown, same cowlick at the crown of his head. But babies change. Faces shift. Memory lies. The next morning, Jack ran into his legs in the kitchen like he did every day. "Daddy, dinosaur are hungry," he declared, holding up the stuffed T-Rex. Ryan crouched down automatically. "Is he now?" he asked, forcing warmth into his voice. Jack nodded solemnly. "He eat pancakes." Ryan scooped him up. The weight felt the same. The smell of toddler shampoo and syrup clinging to his pajamas felt the same. But the question had already lodged itself deep inside Ryan's chest. Later that day, during his lunch break, Ryan sat in his truck in a pharmacy parking lot staring at his phone. He had typed "at-home DNA test" into the search bar 3 times before finally clicking purchase. The box arrived 2 days later in discreet packaging. He intercepted it before Amanda could see. That night, he waited until she was in the shower. He sat on Jack's bedroom floor while his son played with toy cars. "Hey, buddy," Ryan said gently. "Want to play a quick game?" Jack looked up. "Game?" "Yeah, we're going to swab your cheek. Like this." Ryan demonstrated on himself with one of the sterile cotton swabs. Jack giggled. "Tickles. Little bit." "Okay." Ryan's hands were steady as he collected the sample. He labeled the tube carefully. Then he swabbed his own cheek. The entire process took less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes to potentially detonate his entire identity. He sealed the envelope the next morning and dropped it in a mailbox 3 blocks from his office. The wait stretched like torture. 5 business days. Ryan functioned on autopilot. Work meetings, emails, signing documents with David Chun, quiet updates from Tom, the investigator. At home, he watched Jack constantly. Every laugh, every smile, every feature. Searching, comparing, hating himself for it. One night, Amanda sat across from him at dinner, scrolling her phone. "Jack looks more like you every day," she said casually. "It's weird." Ryan's fork paused halfway to his mouth. "Does he asked. "Yeah, the eyes." He studied her face carefully. Was there guilt there? Or was she just lying so effortlessly she didn't feel it anymore? "You sure?" he asked lightly. She shrugged. Obviously. The email came on a Tuesday. At 2:14 p.m., Ryan was in his office reviewing network expansion plans when his phone vibrated. DNA results available. His stomach dropped instantly. He closed his office door, locked it, sat down slowly in his chair. His hands trembled for the first time since this began. He opened the email, clicked the secure link, entered the code. The screen loaded painfully slowly. Then the result appeared in clinical, detached font. Probability of paternity. 0%. Ryan stared at it, blinking, waiting for it to change. It didn't. 0%. Not 1%. Not 5%. 0. The room tilted. He felt like all the air had been sucked out of his lungs at once. He stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly against the floor. "No," he whispered. He refreshed the page. Same result. 0%. Jack is not your biological son. The words weren't written that way, but that's what they meant. He stumbled backward into his desk, knocking over a stack of papers. His chest tightened painfully. His vision blurred. He sank into his chair and buried his face in his hands. The first sound that came out of him wasn't anger. It was grief. A broken, strangled exhale. He remembered the first time Jack said daddy. The first steps. The late nights rocking him through colic. The fever scares. The way Jack always reached for him first when frightened. None of that had been biology. It had been love. But now it felt like the ground under his feet had dissolved. Amanda hadn't just cheated. She had rewritten his bloodline. He didn't know how long he sat there. Eventually, the numbness set in. He printed the result, folded it carefully, placed it in his briefcase. He drove home in silence. When he walked through the door, Lily was coloring at the table. Jack was on the floor building a block tower. "Daddy!" Jack shouted. He ran at full speed and collided with Ryan's legs. Ryan froze for half a second. Then instinct took over. He lifted him, held him tightly. Jack wrapped his arms around his neck. "I build big tower," Jack announced proudly. Ryan swallowed hard. "That's amazing, buddy." Jack leaned back to look at him. "You sack." Ryan forced a smile. "No." Jack studied him for another moment, then rested his head against Ryan's shoulder. The weight, the warmth, the trust. Ryan closed his eyes. It didn't matter what a screen said. He had been there for every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every whispered, "I love you." Later that night, after Amanda fell asleep, facing away from him again, Ryan walked into Jack's room. He knelt beside the bed, watched his son breathe. 3 years, 3 birthdays, 3 Christmas mornings. If this was a lie, it was the cruelest one imaginable. He pulled the folded paper from his pocket and stared at it again under the soft glow of the nightlight. 0%. The number felt sterile, empty. He folded it back slowly. Jack shifted in his sleep and murmured, "Daddy." Ryan's throat closed. He brushed a hand gently over his son's hair. Whatever the truth was, whatever the betrayal had done to him, one thing remained painfully clear. Biology didn't matter, but betrayal did. Chapter 6. Criminal Layers Uncovered. The call came at 10:17 a.m. Ryan was reviewing infrastructure proposals when his desk phone rang, an internal line redirected from reception. "Mr. Cooper," a calm male voice asked. "Yes. This is Detective Harris with the Seattle Police Department. Do you have a few minutes to speak privately?" Ryan's pulse didn't spike. It slowed. "Yes," he said evenly. "I do." He closed his office door again, the same way he had when he opened the DNA results. "What is this regarding?" he asked. "It concerns your wife, Amanda Cooper." There it was. Ryan sat down slowly. "She hasn't been arrested," the detective added, "but her employer has filed a complaint. We're investigating potential financial misconduct." Ryan let a breath move through him. "What kind of misconduct?" "Embezzlement." The word landed heavier than he expected. "We have reason to believe she created several fake vendor accounts within the company's payment system," Detective Harris continued. "Over the past 8 months, approximately $32,000 has been transferred to those accounts." 32,000. Ryan's mind began lining up numbers automatically. "And those accounts?" he asked. "Linked to a secondary bank account under her name. The same one he had found." His voice stayed controlled. "How did you connect it?" "Internal audit flagged irregularities. Your wife authorized payments to vendors that don't exist." Ryan stared at the framed photo on his desk. Lily holding a soccer trophy, Jack covered in birthday cake frosting. "And what were the funds used for?" he asked. "Mostly retail purchases and hotel bookings." "Hotels." The word pressed against his chest. "There are also transactions consistent with luxury goods," the detective added. Ryan swallowed once. "I see. We'll need to speak with her formally," Detective Harris said. "We're also contacting you as her spouse to determine whether you had knowledge of these accounts." "No," Ryan said immediately. "I did not." A pause. "Mr. Cooper, are you aware of any additional financial irregularities?" Ryan leaned back in his chair slowly. He had a choice. Protect her, or protect himself and his children. "I have documentation," he said calmly. "A storage unit registered in her name. Luxury items totaling over $87,000. A handwritten ledger." There was a shift in the detective's tone. "I'd like to see that." "I can provide photos," Ryan replied. "Today?" "Yes." After the call ended, Ryan sat motionless for a long moment. Embezzlement. Fake vendors. 32,000 stolen from her company. On top of the money siphoned from their joint accounts. On top of his mother's inheritance. This wasn't recklessness. This was fraud. At noon, he forwarded the storage unit photographs and copies of the financial statements to the secure email address the detective provided. Within 30 minutes, his phone rang again. "Mr. Cooper," Detective Harris said, voice sharper now. This is helpful. There's more, Ryan replied evenly. The ledger tracks dates. Many correspond with hotel charges. Which hotels? Ryan pulled up his notes. The Bellevue Grand, Lakefront Suites, Harbor View. Another pause. We've already identified bookings at 2 of those locations, Harris said. Ryan's jaw tightened. For 2 occupants? Yes. Silence stretched. We'll be subpoenaing the storage facility records, the detective continued. And the bank. Understood. Has your wife behaved unusually lately? Ryan almost laughed at the understatement. Define unusual. Large cash withdrawals. Sudden asset movement. Signs of concealment. Yes, Ryan said. All of the above. After the call ended, Ryan closed his eyes briefly. Amanda had crossed a line beyond betrayal. She hadn't just destroyed trust. She'd committed a crime. That afternoon, Tom, the private investigator, called with an update. About photographs, Tom said. Meetings with Craig Williams at a hotel downtown. Twice last week. Keep documenting, Ryan replied. You sound calm. I'm focused. When Ryan got home that evening, Amanda was already there. She stood at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone. Hey, she said without looking up. Hey, crazy day, she muttered. Audit team's been digging into old accounts. Ryan set his briefcase down carefully. Oh, yeah, she said lightly. They're probably just covering themselves before year-end. He studied her profile. No visible panic. No visible guilt. You worried? He asked casually. She shrugged. Why would I be? Because you stole $32,000. Because the police are building a case. Because you're running out of time. But he didn't say any of it. Instead, he walked to the fridge and poured himself water. You're quiet, she said, finally glancing at him. Long day. Mine too. She moved closer, reaching for a glass. Her arm brushed his. He felt nothing. Later that night, she sat beside him on the couch while Lily watched a cartoon. Holiday bonuses are coming up, Amanda said. We should think about updating the kitchen next year. Ryan turned slowly to look at her. Updating the kitchen. With stolen money. That's so, he said. Yeah, it'll increase the house value. He nodded. Good idea. She smiled faintly, satisfied. The performance continued. After she went to bed, Ryan opened his laptop again. An email from Detective Harris waited. Subject: formal inquiry. They would be interviewing Amanda within the week. They would need his cooperation. They believed the total amount could be higher than $32,000 once full audits were complete. Ryan closed the laptop gently. She doesn't know I know. The thought settled in his mind like a weapon being loaded. She thought she was managing risk, controlling variables, outsmarting everyone. But she had underestimated him. He walked down the hallway and paused outside the master bedroom. Through the door, he could hear the faint rustle of sheets as she shifted in sleep. He pictured the fake vendor accounts, the hotel rooms, the storage unit, the ledger, the threats to Isabella, the money stolen from their children. This wasn't emotional weakness. This was calculated deceit layered with criminal fraud. He didn't storm inside, didn't wake her, didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, he walked to his office and opened a fresh folder. He placed inside it printed bank statements, storage photos, the DNA result, the police email, each document aligned neatly, each piece of the puzzle locking into place. Amanda doesn't know he knows yet. Ryan closed the folder. Ryan prepares to confront her. Chapter 7, The Confrontation. Ryan chose a Tuesday, not a weekend, not a holiday, not a night when the kids would sense something wrong. A Tuesday, ordinary, controlled. He asked Isabella to take Lily and Jack to the park after school and keep them out for a few hours. At 4:32 p.m., Amanda walked through the front door, heels clicking against the hardwood. I'm exhausted, she called out, dropping her purse on the console table. Audit meetings all day. Ryan stood in the living room, hands in his pockets. We need to talk. She froze slightly. That sounds dramatic, she said lightly, forcing a smile. What's wrong? Sit down. Something in his tone made her obey. She set her purse down slowly and moved to the couch. Ryan remained standing for a moment, studying her. The woman he'd built a life with. The woman who had slept beside him for nearly a decade. Then he walked to the coffee table and placed a thick folder on it. Amanda's eyes flickered downward. What's that? She asked. The truth. A beat of silence. Ryan sat across from her and opened the folder. He slid the first photograph across the table. Craig Williams, entering a hotel. Date and time stamped. Her face drained slightly. Where did you get that? She whispered. Tom, Ryan replied calmly. Private investigator. She blinked rapidly. You're spying on me? I'm documenting you. He slid another photo across. Craig and Amanda in the hotel lobby. She looked away. Ryan's voice remained steady. You've been seeing him for almost a year. Silence. 10 months, she muttered weakly. Almost a year, he corrected. She swallowed. I was going to tell you. When? She didn't answer. Ryan pulled out the next document. The storage unit photos. Hermes, Chanel, Gucci, Tiffany. Her breath caught. You went through my things? She snapped, anger flickering. Our things, Ryan corrected. Paid for with our money. She opened her mouth to argue. He cut her off by sliding another page forward. Bank statements. Transfers. $45,000 withdrawn from his mother's inheritance account. Her fingers trembled slightly. You stole from my mother's legacy, he said quietly. Her eyes filled with tears. I was going to replace it. With what? He asked. The money you embezzled from your company? Her head snapped up. He placed the police email in front of her. She stared at it like it might explode. They contacted me, Ryan said. $32,000 through fake vendor accounts. Her lips parted. They're building a case. She stood abruptly. You have no idea what pressure I've been under. Sit down. She hesitated. Then Saturday, you don't understand what it's like, she continued, voice rising. You're never here. You're always working. I was alone. Ryan felt the words hit, but they didn't pierce. I was working for this family, he said evenly. I was drowning, she cried. You think I wanted this? I was stressed. The kids, the house, your long hours, so you opened fake vendors? Booked hotel rooms? Threatened Isabella with deportation. Her face paled again. She told you. Amanda whispered. Yes. Amanda pressed her hands to her forehead. I was scared, she said. If she told you, everything would fall apart. You made it fall apart. She started crying now, loud, dramatic sobs. I was lonely, Ryan, she shouted. Craig made me feel seen. Wanted. You barely touched me anymore. Ryan stared at her. I tried, he said quietly. You turned away. She shook her head violently. You checked out first. He reached into the folder one last time. The DNA result. He placed it gently on the table. She looked at it. Confusion. Then horror. You tested Jack? She whispered. Yes. Her breathing grew shallow. I had to know. She grabbed the paper, scanning the words. 0% probability, she read aloud, her voice breaking. Silence swallowed the room. He's not, Ryan began but couldn't finish. Amanda began shaking her head frantically. No, that has to be wrong. It's what the test says. She collapsed back against the couch, sobbing harder. I never cheated while I was pregnant, she cried. I swear to you. It started later. After. I was overwhelmed. I felt invisible. Ryan's face remained carved from stone. You didn't just cheat, he said. You lied. You stole. You endangered this family. She looked up at him through tears. Please, she whispered. We can fix this. No, the word was final. That night, Amanda called her parents. By the next afternoon, they were in Ryan's living room. Her father stood rigid, jaw tight. Her mother's eyes were red from crying. How could you humiliate our daughter like this? Her mother demanded. Ryan blinked slowly. Excuse me. You're never home, her father said sharply. She's been alone for years. Ryan let out a hollow laugh. So that justifies fraud? Adultery? Theft? Her mother crossed her arms. Marriage takes two people. So does betrayal, Ryan replied. Amanda sat between them, fragile and silent. You pushed her away, her father continued. All you care about is work. Ryan stood. I care about providing, about stability, about our children. Children who deserve two parents, her mother snapped. Ryan met Amanda's eyes. You filed a restraining order, he said quietly. Her father stiffened. She needed protection. From what? Ryan asked calmly. There's no evidence of abuse. The judge denied it this morning. Amanda flinched. You tried to remove me from my own home, Ryan continued. I was scared, she shouted suddenly. You looked at me like I was nothing. I looked at you like I finally saw you. Silence fell. 2 days later, Ryan filed for divorce. The paperwork felt surreal in his hands. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Grounds: adultery, financial misconduct. When Amanda received the papers, she stared at him in disbelief. You're really doing this? She asked. Yes. You'll destroy this family. You already did. She crumpled the documents in her hands. You'll regret this, she whispered. Ryan didn't respond, because he knew something she didn't. He wasn't reacting. He was advancing. War begins. Chapter 8, The Hospital and the Twist. It happened on a Tuesday morning that started like any other. Jack was laughing at breakfast. He had chocolate smeared across his cheek, holding his spoon upside down like it was the most logical thing in the world. I remember watching him from across the kitchen island, exhausted from court filings and attorney meetings, but smiling anyway. Then he blinked slowly, too slowly. His spoon slipped from his fingers and clattered against the tile. Buddy, I said, already moving toward him. His body went limp. Amanda screamed. I caught him before he hit the floor. The emergency room in Seattle was a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic air. Nurses pulled him from my arms and rushed him through double doors while I stood there with my hand still curved like I was holding him. A doctor asked questions. How long was he lethargic? Any fever? Vomiting? Sensitivity to light? Amanda answered between sobs. I couldn't speak. They took spinal fluid, blood, scans. An hour later, a pediatric infectious disease specialist stood in front of us, face tight. It's bacterial meningitis. The word dropped like a stone into water. Amanda gasped. Is he going to? We caught it early, the doctor said firmly. But the next 48 hours are critical. ICU, machines, beeping monitors, for lines and arms that were too small for them. I sat beside his bed and held his hand while antibiotics dripped into his veins. His skin was hot, too hot, his breathing shallow but steady. Amanda hovered at the foot of the bed. For once, there were no accusations, no lawyers, no strategy, just fear. I didn't leave, not to shower, not to eat properly, not even to check my phone. When nurses asked if I wanted coffee, I shook my head. When Amanda suggested I go home to rest, I said quietly, I'm not going anywhere. Jack stirred once, whispering, Daddy. I leaned forward instantly. I'm right here, champ. His eyes fluttered, closed again. Amanda turned away and cried. The second night, sometime after 2 a.m., when the ICU was silent except for machines and distant footsteps, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again. I glanced at the screen. An email. From the lab. My stomach twisted. Not now. But my hands moved anyway. Subject. Correction notice. Paternity test results. My chest tightened. I stepped into the hallway, so I wouldn't wake Amanda. The fluorescent lights made everything feel unreal as I opened the email. I read it once, then again, then a third time because my brain refused to process it. Due to a labeling error during sample processing, your previous result was incorrect. The corrected analysis indicates a 99.97% probability of paternity. I stopped breathing. I leaned against the wall. Read it again. 99.97%. Not zero. Not doubt. Not uncertainty. My son. Jack was my biological son. The world tilted. For weeks, I had walked around carrying a wound so deep I thought it would never close. I had replayed every moment of his birth, every milestone, every laugh, and underneath it all was that voice. He's not yours. Now the voice was gone, replaced by something explosive. Relief. Blinding, overwhelming relief. And rage, because the timeline clicked into place instantly. The nanny said 10 months. Jack was 3. That meant the affair began when he was 10 months old. After his first birthday. After his first steps. After all those nights Amanda and I had stayed up together exhausted, but proud. She didn't betray me during pregnancy. She didn't betray me when I held her hand in the delivery room. But she betrayed me after. In our home. In our bed. While I was building a future for us. I covered my mouth as something broke loose in my chest. A sound came out of me, half laugh, half sob. I slid down the wall and sat on the hospital floor. I didn't care who saw. Amanda stepped into the hallway minutes later. "Ryan," she whispered. I wiped my face quickly. "What happened?" I handed her my phone. She read the email. Her eyes widened. "Oh my God." Silence. Then tears, different tears this time. "He's yours," she said softly, like it was a gift. I looked at her. "He was always mine." She flinched. I never doubted that you loved him," she said quickly. "That's not the point." She reached for my arm. I stepped back. The relief was still surging through me, but the anger had roots now. Deep ones. "You let me believe," I said quietly, voice steady but sharp, "that my entire life was a lie. I didn't know about the mistake. I'm not talking about the test." Her mouth closed. We both knew what I meant. She looked small standing there. Exhausted, guilty, afraid, but the damage was done. We went back into the ICU room. Jack was sleeping peacefully, fever finally coming down. I sat beside him and stroked his hair. "My boy," I whispered. Amanda stood on the other side of the bed. For a brief second, it almost looked like a family. But it wasn't. Not anymore. The next morning, the doctor smiled for the first time. "He's responding well to antibiotics. Another day or two, and he should be out of danger." I closed my eyes and exhaled fully for the first time in days. Amanda squeezed my shoulder. I didn't move. When Jack finally opened his eyes fully and reached for me, I leaned down and let him wrap his tiny arms around my neck. "Daddy, stay," he murmured. "I'm not going anywhere," I said, voice breaking. And this time, I meant in a different way. Not for Amanda. For him. Only him. Later that afternoon, while Amanda stepped out to call her parents, I sat alone beside Jack's bed. The machines hummed steadily. I stared at my son's face, the curve of his nose, the stubborn line of his chin. Mine. All of it mine. The relief was still there. But so was clarity. Amanda had betrayed me. Not during pregnancy. Not when Jack was growing inside her. But after. When he was 10 months old. When I was working late nights, believing I was building stability. When she was sneaking into hotels. Into our bedroom. Into a life built on deception. The marriage had died long before this hospital room. The DNA result didn't resurrect it. It only restored one thing. Fatherhood. I leaned forward and pressed my forehead gently against Jack's small hand. "I've got you," I whispered. And in that quiet ICU room, surrounded by beeping monitors and sterile walls, one truth settled inside me like steel. Amanda betrayed me, but not during pregnancy. The marriage remained dead, but fatherhood was restored. Chapter 9. Collapse of the affair. The first thing Ryan noticed that morning was the silence. Not the quiet of a house emptied of children or work, but the absence of Amanda. The perfume lingering in her side of the bedroom was gone. No hurried footsteps, no stifled sighs, no phone tapping. Just emptiness. Her disappearance wasn't a surprise. The events of the past few weeks had set the stage. Between the police investigation, the storage unit evidence, and the financial audits, Amanda's carefully curated world was crumbling. Ryan had stayed in touch with Detective Harris, providing additional documentation. Ledgers, receipts, photographs, and bank statements. The numbers were irrefutable. The investigation had progressed faster than anyone had anticipated. The phone call came mid-morning. "Mr. Cooper? It's Harris again. I have an update regarding Amanda Cooper." Ryan straightened in his chair. "Go ahead." "She was terminated from her position at the company today," the detective said. "Effective immediately. Her name has been removed from internal communications. HR is classifying this as a financial misconduct termination, and it's being documented for the legal proceedings." Ryan exhaled slowly. A strange mix of vindication and bitterness settled over him. "Do they know about the embezzlement?" he asked quietly. "Yes. And given the evidence you provided, we've offered her a plea deal. Probation with restitution payments. No jail time if she accepts." He nodded, not speaking for a moment. Understood. Amanda's world, once polished and expansive, was closing in rapidly. The police, the courts, the auditors, she had nowhere to hide. Later that afternoon, Ryan received a message from Tom, the private investigator. "Craig Williams has vanished," the message read. Ryan didn't need to ask more. He knew. The man who had bragged about his affair, who had laughed in his face at the work party, was gone. The charm and arrogance evaporated the moment consequences began to ripple. Craig had been a temporary thrill for Amanda. Expendable once, risk outweighed pleasure. The reality of it was almost cinematic. Her lovers fled. Her career evaporated. Her safety net had been shredded. Amanda herself reached out a few days later. A terse voicemail. "Ryan, please, I need to talk. I need them. I need the children." He listened without answering immediately. The words were heavy with panic, desperation. But Ryan had learned over the past months that tone could mask intent. She followed up with texts. "I can explain. I can make this right. Please, don't take them away from me. I'm scared, Ryan. I can't face this alone." Ryan didn't respond. Not immediately. He reread each message slowly, analyzing her wording, the gaps between calls, the implied threats. She was trying to negotiate with fear, trying to manipulate remorse, hoping he would bend. He finally typed a single line. "There is no reconciliation. Your actions ended that. No further explanation. No discussion. Just clarity." Within a week, Amanda packed what little she had left and left Seattle. She moved back to her parents' home in Connecticut, a place that once represented comfort and safety, now a cage for her shame. The house she had ruled with calculated charm, the city she had navigated with confidence, her reputation, her career, her freedom to indulge in luxuries, all contracted into a small, monitored space where everyone knew her history. Her parents tried to shield her, tried to temper the public embarrassment, but even they could not erase the facts. She had been exposed, stripped of pretense, her choices laid bare for scrutiny. Ryan watched it all unfold from a distance. He did not gloat. He did not celebrate. The man who had been robbed of trust and peace focused instead on the things he could control. His children, his home, his mind. Lily's laughter echoed from the backyard as she chased Jack around the swings. Their small hands clasped, carefree, unaware of the storm their mother had brought into their lives. Ryan stood at the threshold, arms crossed, sun cutting shadows across his chest. He felt a sense of calm that had been absent for months. Amanda had begged. She had pleaded. She had tried to claw back a semblance of influence over his life and theirs. But he refused reconciliation. He refused to let sentiment dictate decisions built on betrayal. Instead, he chose stability, predictability, safety. The house he had once doubted, the marriage he had thought was collapsing quietly around him, the children he feared he had lost, these were his anchors. Meanwhile, Amanda's world shrank. Every call from friends she had used for cover was silent. Craig's disappearance left her isolated. The plea deal for probation meant financial accountability. Every indulgence she had enjoyed was now a memory cataloged in documents and photographs, pieces of evidence against her, reminders of what she had lost. Ryan's clarity sharpened with each passing day. The anger, the humiliation, the heartbreak, all had condensed into a focused determination. Protect what mattered. Preserve what was rightfully his. Build what she had sought to destroy. He moved through the house with a quiet efficiency now, checking accounts, reviewing schedules, confirming that the children's routines remained intact. He had learned the depth of betrayal. He now learned the precision of control. Amanda's absence, her pleading, her flight to Connecticut, all of it crystallized a truth that was simple yet profound. Actions have consequences. Choices have limits. Trust, once broken, is not easily restored. And Ryan knew, deep in the marrow of his bones, that this was not vengeance. Not yet. Not the hot, vengeful kind he had imagined in those sleepless nights. This was preservation. This was strategy. This was life after betrayal. He watched Jack carefully line up his toy dinosaurs in a perfect row and Lily giggle at his antics, the afternoon sun washing over them. He felt a quiet, almost imperceptible smile tug at his lips. Amanda had lost the battle for influence. Ryan had retained what mattered most. Her world had shrunk. His clarity had sharpened. Chapter 10, Courtroom Victory and Quiet Rebuild. The courthouse smelled of polished wood, paper, and faint coffee. Sunlight cut through the tall windows, landing on the rows of benches, the polished floor, and the stern faces of lawyers and clerks. Ryan adjusted his tie for the fourth time and took a slow breath, steadying himself. Amanda arrived next, as composed as she could manage. She walked in with her attorney, her heels clicking confidently against the tile. Ryan's jaw tightened. The woman who had once shared his bed now demanded his life, his resources, and his children. Her opening statement was a mixture of charm and manipulation. "Your Honor," she began, voice steady, "I've always loved my children. I have worked tirelessly for their well-being. My husband, though dedicated to work, has been absent emotionally at times. It's only fair that I receive primary custody, a substantial portion of our assets, and support to maintain stability." Ryan watched her carefully, noting every inflection, every attempt at charm. His lawyers, led by David Chun, remained calm. They had rehearsed every counterpoint, every photograph, every document. They were prepared. When it was his turn, Ryan rose slowly. He looked at the judge and then at Amanda. "Your Honor, I have always provided for my children. I have nurtured them, been present at every moment, and ensured their safety. What I did not provide was deception from someone I trusted completely. Evidence will show that my spouse engaged in an extramarital affair, embezzled funds from both our accounts and her employer, and threatened those who try to protect this family." He gestured toward the folder David had prepared. "These are records, photographs, and financial statements. My children's nanny, Isabella, will testify. Bank statements and the police reports will verify the embezzlement. I asked the court to consider not only the betrayal, but the tangible harm caused to this family." Amanda's face hardened. "This is character assassination," she exclaimed. "You're manipulating every piece of evidence to paint me as a villain." David Chun countered smoothly. "Your Honor, the documents speak for themselves. We are presenting factual, verifiable information. This is not manipulation. This is reality. The children's welfare is paramount, and we must act accordingly." The courtroom sessions stretched for days. Witnesses were called. Isabella described the visits by Craig, the threats she faced, and the stolen items. Financial experts testified about the missing funds, tracing transfers and withdrawals. Ryan sat through it all, emotion locked in check. Every testimony reinforced the truth he already knew. Betrayal had consequences. Amanda's strategy was to play the sympathetic mother. She cried in court, claiming loneliness, stress, and marital neglect. But the evidence was undeniable. Luxury purchases, hotel records, and photographs had already been logged. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. Ryan sat in the courtroom, hands folded in his lap, heart steady. The judge cleared his throat. Having reviewed all evidence, testimony, and arguments presented, the court rules as follows. Ryan's eyes stayed on Amanda. Her lip trembled slightly. Her attorney leaned forward, whispering, "Mr. Cooper is awarded full physical and legal custody of the children. Ms. Cooper is granted supervised visitation twice monthly. Mr. Cooper retains ownership of the marital residence. Ms. Cooper is ordered to reimburse Mr. Cooper $45,000 and to cover 65% of all child-related expenses moving forward." The words landed like sunlight breaking through clouds. Relief, satisfaction, and quiet triumph washed over him. Amanda lowered her head, blinking back tears, realizing the magnitude of the loss. Outside the courthouse, the air felt sharp but freeing. Ryan held Lily's hand in one, Jack's in the other. They didn't fully understand the legal jargon, but they felt the calm stability returning. The following months were a mixture of routine and small victories. Ryan's promotion at work provided additional financial stability, allowing him to focus more on his children. Morning routines, school drop-offs, bedtime stories, and weekend outings became sacred again. Lily practiced soccer drills in the yard while Jack chased Bubbles, both laughing freely. Ryan sat on the porch steps, letting the sun warm his shoulders. The chaos of betrayal and courtrooms felt distant now, like a storm that had passed. One evening, he attended a divorce support group. The room was simple, chairs arranged in a circle. People shared stories, some raw, some hesitant. Ryan listened, absorbing the shared pain and resilience. At the meeting, he met Ella, the group leader. Her calm demeanor and understanding presence drew him in. They spoke after the session, quietly. "You've been through a lot," she said, "but it's clear you've found your footing." "I'm learning," Ryan replied. "It's been a process." "No rush," she said. "You're doing well just by being here. Healing takes time, but sometimes we just need to start somewhere." Ryan nodded, appreciating the simplicity of the conversation. There was no expectation, no pressure, just possibility. A chance to rebuild slowly. Back home, he watched his children play in the yard, their laughter ringing through the crisp air. Lily's ponytail bobbed as she sprinted past Jack, who tumbled in the grass, giggling. Ryan's heart swelled. He reflected on the months behind him. Amanda had taken his marriage, his trust, his financial security. But she had not taken the things that mattered most. His children, his dignity, his ability to choose a future on his own terms. He realized, with quiet satisfaction, that survival was not enough. He hadn't just endured the betrayal. He had navigated it, documented it, and emerged with clarity and control. Ryan sat back on the steps, letting the warmth of the afternoon sun settle on him. His eyes followed Lily as she kicked a soccer ball toward Jack, who squealed in delight. He felt something he hadn't in months. Peace. And then, a slow, genuine smile spread across his face. He hadn't just survived. He had won. This was his life now. Solid, stable, undeniable. He would continue to protect what mattered most, nurture it, and let the past remain exactly where it belonged, behind him. The yard echoed with laughter. The sun painted long shadows across the grass, and Ryan allowed himself a long, deep breath. Victory was quiet, but absolute.